morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, 2016, and this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is 62 degrees, very pleasant here in upstate New York. They said we're supposed to get a little bit of rain, so I am hoping that we might see that later on today. So where do we leave off on Friday? We titled the show Brain Zapping, DoD, Google, Galaxo, Neural Dust Implants, and Chimeras. And yeah, we covered all of those things. We had taken a look at some of the connections between the Brain Project, DARPA, doing live brain surgery on TV on National Geographic, and kind of how now they are morphing that into consumer products to be able to manipulate that vagus nerve, which of course they've been researching for quite a while now. We've discovered that vagus nerve allows them to control not only processes in the organs, but also brain chemicals, and there's all kinds of interesting things coming out. Be very careful. I would not be putting any type of brain zapping device on my head. The way that they were trying to sell this was that it was so great, and it's going to make Johnny smart, and it's going to cure your inflammation, which is the root of all disease. Yeah, put these things on. No, I don't think so. We also found out the National Institute of Health has finally approved the funding for human-animal hybrids. They are going to lift funding bans on human-animal hybrids and allow them to do mad science gone mad and everything but monkeys. They can mix humans and pigs and humans and mice, but right now there's still a moratorium on humans and monkeys. I mean, where is that going to leave us? Of course, they're saying that it's to grow organs and, come up with all kinds of great 21st century cures. But you know better, because I will guarantee you that someday in the future we are going to have Minotaur soldiers running around. I joke about that all the time, but I think I found a connecting dot that makes my suspicion a little scarier than just a suspicion. Let's take a look here before we go any further, because I kind of wanted to tie all this together from Friday, and I think this ties a lot of it together. This is a press release out of the Department of Defense. Michael from Primer Times sent this to me a couple weeks ago, and I haven't been able to get to it until now, but now it makes a lot more sense. Secretary Carter names additional members of Defense Innovation Advisory Board. They created this new advisory board to help the Department of Defense upgrade their back-end systems back in March, I believe, of 2016. And they dubbed the chair of this committee to be who? Oh, Eric Schmidt, executive chairman of Alphabet, the parent company to Google. What's very interesting about that, Eric Schmidt being the head of this committee, is that we have already found out that there's quite the revolving door between Google and DARPA, or DARPA and Google, I should say, with Regina Duggan, the director at DARPA, coming over to Google and take over their ATAP program, which was their advanced devices. She also is in charge of the wearable computing and the magic pills to wave your hand to make it a magic wand to open doors and have superpowers. But we also had DARPA Dan, don't forget. DARPA Dan, the one who was the director while they were creating Memex, which was that back-end tool to be able to scan the dark web and connect people and events together, following patterns, finding IP addresses, and putting profiles on people, and then connecting them with their groups that they tend to be related to. And of course, that is all in the name of trying to tamp down on pornography and human trafficking, they say. But that, any endpoint that's out there, we talk about the Internet of Things. And I mean, the Internet itself is like a large version of the Internet of Things. Each PC is an endpoint. Just like now, currently, coming in the future, we're going to have each device, such as our mobile devices, such as our new Levi's jacket that has antenna in it and connected, Our smart refrigerator, our smart washing machine, our thermostat, our sprinklers outside, our alarm system on our house and our car, as well as your front door keys, your banking authentication, and many, many other things. It's very frightening, but that is all going to be a part of the connected Internet of Things, and you'll be able to control these things by either utilizing some sort of biometric, which they've been trying to get biometrics off the ground for probably about 20 years now. Back in the 90s, we were selling keyboards with thumbprint readers on them. I mean, you could get it way back when, and back at that time, I thought it was pretty cool, but I don't now, of course. But, they never really took off, just like tablet computing back in the 90s never took off. Dumb terminals never really took off. Once the PC revolution rescued us from green screen computers, no one wanted to go back. But they've realized now that administration, and now, of course, surveillance, is very difficult when you have all of these independent endpoints that are connecting ubiquitously. And so what they have decided now is that dumb terminals integrating the computing so it is not any longer really in front of your face or a problem. You don't have to administer it. It's all left up to the cloud or to the machine to take care of those things. And we have DARPA currently right now. We talked about this last week, the hacking conference, DEF CON in Vegas. I couldn't remember the name on Friday, but it's the DEF CON conference, where typically they have a lot of hackers from around the United States show up, and they have the Department of Defense, DARPA, there, as well as a lot of the other alphabet agencies looking to recruit. And they typically have competitions. And this one I saw was a banking team out of Carnegie Mellon, I believe, is who won. But they had 7 supercomputers of DARPA's that were running software that was artificially intelligent. And each team was responsible for programming the software to set it up to be able to go out and find vulnerabilities to see which supercomputer could artificially, intellectually hack better than a hacker. And they had a competition, and somebody actually won. It was a pretty big prize. I don't know, it was something like $2 million. But the fact of the matter is, what they did was they were able to do live beta testing. They were able to do some visualization to see maybe who some really good candidates would be to bring on board for this new project. And they're setting up this shape-shifting immune system for the Internet and the Internet of Things, just like they are working on the new shape-shifting immune system, genetic therapy for humans. And we read about that last week, the week before as well. This new synthetic biology that will be able to integrate itself into your cells. This was a story out of New York Times, mind you. Integrate itself into your cells and actually change your DNA. So if any threat, known or unknown, appears in your environment, your body and this new addition to your DNA will be able to morph you. So you will evolve on the spot to be able to then fight off this pathogen, whether it be a human to a viral pathogen or a computer to a viral pathogen on the Internet. So quite interesting that all of that is happening right at the very same time. We have Eric Schmidt, executive chairman of Alphabet, be dubbed as the head of this new Defense Innovation Advisory Board with the Department of Defense, of which DARPA is a part. So anyway, let's read this because they've added more people now to the roster. Secretary of Defense Ash Carter today announced, and this was July 26, 2016, announced 9 additional members selected to join the Defense Innovation Advisory Board, which was established in March of 2016 to help keep the Department of Defense on the cutting edge of innovation. The new additions include Amazon CEO and Chairman Jeff Bezos. Oh yeah, Jeff Bezos, who's also launching his own low-orbit rockets Jeff Bezos. I think actually Jeff was the one, he's doing the testing down in Southwest Texas, and his was able to take off and land multiple times without having an accident, unlike Tesla's. Also, they've added Code for America founder Jennifer Apalka, as well as astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. So look at these groups now. We got Jeff Bezos, we got Google, we got Code for America. I'm not really sure who they are, but it's a software firm that can write lots of code. And we have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is kind of like the teddy bear for science. Now, if Neil deGrasse Tyson says it's true, it must be, according to the TV. They got all these guys on this defense board now with the Department of Defense to help them innovate for the future. Chaired by Alphabet Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt, the board, and remember, Eric Schmidt was the one that we had heard in an interview a while back, might have been CNN, talking about the Longevity Project and immortality, and Google's Verily, which is now the Verily division, working on products to try to cure death as a disease. And we've seen some of those now over the last 6 months or so that have been pretty frightening. They're messing around with gut bacteria and zipping and zapping vagus nerves, splicing and dicing DNA, and they are starting trials now. Of course, we have a Zika outbreak. We talked about that on Friday as well. And now they have, of course, the very first vaccine ready to go into human trials in the U.S., and we had dumb people step right up for that. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But remember, too, in just this last month, we had the approval for the ability to CRISPR humans to cure a disease, and in this case, the big C, cancer. And I think that was that Penn U has 3 different cancers that they were going to do testing on like 20 people. And they are still awaiting the final approval on that and for a hospital to do the practice at. But that looks like it's happening, because if they don't do it, China's gonna. And China was going to do it in August. So I guess we're going to see. I think they were going after small squamous cell lung cancer. So we'll see. But doing real live gene editing on humans is happening, people. And, don't think that it hasn't been happening in back rooms already, quietly, not in front of the public, but they are ready to take this mainstream now, and that's the scary part. Chaired by Alphabet Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt, so this is this DoD, Defense Innovation Advisory Board, full of tech titans. This board is comprised of 15 innovators, scholars, and leaders of large private and public institutions focused on new technologies and organizational behavior and culture, which is like culture. I don't know, or maybe how to sell you things into culture, because that would make a lot more sense. They need you to embrace the machine, remember. Secretary Carter has asked the board to identify innovative private sector practices and technological solutions that the DoD could employ in the future. And while these new additions to the board represent some of the most innovative minds in America, this is whoever's writing this article for defense.gov, I appreciate their willingness to join this effort and keep the Department of Defense on the cutting edge, says Secretary Carter. So it must have been him. Current and prospective board members are as follows: Eric Schmidt, Executive Chairman of Alphabet; Jeff Bezos, President, Chairman, and CEO of Amazon; Adam Grant, a professor at the Wharton School of Business; Danny Hillis, computer theorist and co-founder of Applied Inventions; Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn and partner at Greylock Partners; Walter Isaacson, president and CEO of the Aspen Institute; Eric Lander, president and founding director of the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. Now, where have we heard that before? Oh, with the other co-founder, Dr. George Church, who is the individual that is going to be spearheading the Human Synthetic Genome Project that they had the secret meeting at Harvard about with 150 scientists a few months ago. Yes, that George Church. He was one of the founding members of the Broad Institute. So we have somebody who is very involved in synthetic biology. The dude's the founding director and the president of the Broad Institute on this Department of Defense board, along with Google, Amazon, somebody, a professor from a business school, somebody, a computer theorist and co-founder of an invention company, the co-founder of LinkedIn, where you're going to have lots and lots of talent with all their resumes online. I don't know what the Aspen Institute is. We also have this Marlene Levine, Chief Operating Officer of Instagram, so social media outside of Facebook. Notice Zucker isn't on here. J. Michael McQuaid, Senior Vice President for Science and Technology of United Technologies. William McRaven, the Chancellor of the University of Texas System. So that's very interesting considering that the Blue Angel project by DARPA, and that was that universal flu vaccine that they were doing all kinds of genetic modification on tobacco, was taking place at Texas A&M. So interesting that they've pulled the chancellor of the whole University of Texas system into this group of individuals. We also have Milo Menden, Vice President of Access Services for Google Capital. So we got the funding too. Richard Murray, Professor of the California Institute of Technology, and that is really kind of the governmental NASA School of Nuclear, Department of Energy, bunch of schools in the University of California system, and the CIT is just like MIT, very technological, but more on the dark side, under the covers, secret technology. I think MIT talks a lot about what they're doing, but California Institute of Technology does not. Jennifer Polka, we said this, founder of Code for America. Get this one. Cass Sunstein, professor at Harvard Law. So we got a lawyer on board too, and this is the Cass Sunstein that was tied back to the old days of the White House. And then, of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is the happy teddy bear face of science on TV, astrophysicist and author. So they're all joining together now to give the Department of Defense a hand. Secretary Carter announced the new members during an event to formally open the new Defense Innovation Unit Experimental, or DIU, with a small little x. As an abbreviation, office in Boston, DIUX is another groundbreaking effort from Secretary Carter to strengthen the department's connections to the American innovation economy. Ding! Speed technologies into the hands of warfighters as well. Ding, ding, ding. So wait a minute. So we asked Friday, I had never seen DIUX before, and it came up in a story on Friday. I was like, oh, we'll have to look that up. Well, that's why we've never seen it before, because it's brand spanking new. And this Defense Innovation Unit Experimental is going to not only aid the department's connections to the American innovation economy, so that's the tech titans, but also speed technologies into the hands of warfighters. So we have Google and Amazon and the University of Texas system and the California Institute of Technology and Harvard Law School and the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, Wharton Business School. We got all of these public and private institutions helping the war machine. Member Eric Lander, who is a geneticist, a molecular biologist, and a mathematician who currently serves as the president and founding director of the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, was on hand for today's announcement in Boston. He says, it is an honor to serve on the advisory board, and I look forward to providing my insights and recommendations to Secretary Carter on how the Department of Defense can innovate to solve some of its unique challenges. Now, I can't even believe this. So, guys, we have been sold. Sold, I tell you. Here, look at your fun little dangling, sparkly mobile device and keep getting sucked in. Keep feeding your information into the machine. Because if there was any doubt in your mind that Jules was a bit of a lunatic making all these connections between these tech titans and the feds, beep, 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 the writing is on the wall. It happens. Okay, we're sucking technology into the machine. And it's all becoming one. It's all becoming one big brother. And Big Brother now has the power to put all of their mad science technology inside of you by law. You know, what are you going to do? If it's, get the chip or die. Because I don't know what you're going to do. And I'll tell you what, we've talked about this before. There's all this bioterror, that they're warning about now. Oh my God, we've spread CRISPR across the planet. Hoping Johnny doesn't create the next killer virus or bacteria in mommy's garage. But don't worry about it because we have this shape-shifting immune system, this gene therapy that'll go in and make a few changes to your DNA so you'll be able to battle anything that comes at you. That is going to be the answer. So when some mad science virus gets released and all of a sudden, oh my God, we have a real pandemic this time, not the Zika bullshit that's going on, is a great excuse not only to release some very experimental Zika vaccines that start messing with DNA and the immune system, but also for them to let every mosquito genie out of the bottle that Oxitec has been working on to be able to do experiment site A, B, and C, and I see now Oxitec, man, they have turned it up 10 notches as far as their posts go. Every single day now, they got a new press release about they're going to another town, and they're selling their wares, and they're going to Congress, and they're selling their wares, and they're going to Florida, and they're selling their wares, and they're going to Brazil, and they're selling their wares, and they're letting mosquitoes out, and it's going to be the ecological solution instead of spraying all these poisonous pesticides. Well, it's not going to be the ecological solution. They're genetically modified mosquitoes. They can put anything into these mosquitoes. We've looked at the technology. We've looked at CRISPR. We've looked at how they splice and dice genes. And now they can take one little snippet out and put another little snippet in. We've heard Billy Gates talk about mosquitoes being flying syringes. And we know how much he loves vaccines. Don't be afraid of the needle, Johnny. It's just a mosquito bite. Wear your DEET. Or you might accidentally get vaccinated. And how much of a step is that? Right now they're putting the self-limiting gene into these GMO mosquitoes out of Oxitec. But what would it take? And I read a whole bunch when we were looking at the edible vaccines and the biowarfare program and some of the different experiments that they've had in the past. One of them was to have medications be produced inside of these creatures so they could literally be used as flying needles to land and to give vaccinations. Now all I gotta say is for the good of the people. My God, look, we are having a pandemic. I mean, this isn't too far off to even take a look at some of their connections to the Weiss Institute. And the Weiss Institute is the institute via biologically inspired engineering where they're creating the home of the robo-bees and other little things like mosquitoes that can be used not only to pollinate crops but also for surveillance. Remember, we read that slick that they had on their website. It's frightening, guys. And so we have the Department of Defense that's bringing all these tech companies in and the synthetic biology guys to help them, quote unquote, innovate. Yet we've been looking at all the projects that they've been innovating all this time without the tech titans involved. But we've been looking at all of the innovations that these lunatic tech titans have been working on. So now they literally, you need to grasp the ramifications of this. They literally are merging. When we first had Regina Duggan, move over to Google from DARPA. And then we had Ray Kurzweil get hired as the director of engineering. And we had Google itself. I am not evil. Google is not evil. And I told you guys that, in my mind, was the great trinity of evil. Between the three of those, that was the unholy trinity. DARPA, Google, and Kurzweil. That spelled sucking us into the machine. But it has gotten, that was quite a long time ago. We've been talking about this for quite a number of years already. So now let's fast forward to today, to July 26, 2016. It's all come to fruition now. It's all part of the same machine, and it always was. It just wasn't official. They had to make sure that they had the right names to be able to cut the paychecks to. Anyway, back to the story. I ramble. Eric Lander, a geneticist, molecular biologist, and mathematician who currently serves as the president and founding director of the Broad Institute at MIT and Harvard, was on hand for today's announcement in Boston. It is an honor to serve on the advisory board, he said, and I look forward to providing my insights and recommendations to Secretary Carter on how the department can innovate to solve some of its unique challenges. The board will begin its work over the summer, so they are already hard at work, and is tasked to provide the Secretary with initial recommendations by October. Board members must complete a DoD onboarding process for their appointments to be completed. So what do you think about them apples? And I don't know what to say about this. The merging of man and machine is happening whether we like it or not. And unless we can find some way to pulse weapon these or short circuit these, I don't know how we're going to fight this. We read on Friday wireless implantable sensors the size of a grain of sand could have wide use in body monitoring. Remember, they were calling it neural dust. And it was from the University of California, Berkeley. And remember, who became president of the University of California system? Good old Manit Napolitano, our former Department of Homeland Security director. Interesting. I just saw too, Lisa, I don't remember her last name. Somebody remind me. Lisa, the former head of the EPA that stepped down, the woman that was in charge when all those RadNet monitors went offline right after Fukushima happened. Remember that? And then when they came back online, they'd all been adjusted to show lower readings than what they had been beforehand. Lisa Jackson, that's her name. I just saw a story earlier today that I was reading, and Lisa Jackson was mentioned in there. She is now like the environmental liaison for Apple Computing. Advising on how to be environmentally friendly or whatever, but what a cake job that is. And she moved right out of the White House as the head of the EPA over to Apple. So that was an interesting connection. Anyway, University of California, Berkeley engineers, and we'll read a little bit of this from Friday, just to kind of really set the stage here that, guys, this is real. This is no joke. We've now had all these tech companies move into bed with the Department of Defense. So everything we've talked about has just now come under one heading, okay? It's all under the same heading now. And they have money behind it, and they got the power behind it. And they got the military behind it. University of California, Berkeley engineers have built the first dust-sized wireless sensor that can be implanted in the body, bringing closer the day when a Fitbit-like device could monitor internal nerves, muscles, or organs in real time. And this came right on the heels of reading about the brand new story of Google's Verily, that's their mad science, life science division, where Tommy Insel, as of October, the now former director of the National Institute of Mental Health, went as well. And our good old Google contact lenses for treating and curing diabetes came from there also. But they've now partnered with GlaxoSmithKline to produce a device to treat, I think they're going to start with diabetes, but they're hoping to be able to treat inflammation and other things by zapping electrical impulses into different parts of the body. I don't know if they're going to actually do headphones or zap that vagus nerve in the ear or where they're planning on doing it, but it's going to be some sort of little device that they use to put electrical pulses to be able to manipulate the systems within you. So, couple that with now this dust-sized wireless sensor that can be implanted in the body and be a management system. Remember, they've been talking about being able to monitor and have us like we're a car. So, we're not surprised when something breaks down. We will have gauges to make sure that we're always operating within parameters. And if you take the chip, if you get those little nanobodies in your blood, or you take some of that synthetic biotic that Bill and Melinda Gates are investing in, that'll go in and fix inflammation in your gut when it is found. Or, I don't know, you get CRISPR spliced and diced. Remember I told you it's going to be spliced and diced or zipped and zapped? You'll be able to cure what ails you, and it'll all be in the name of technology. And you will be a 21st century human. You just have to take some of the new technology that will allow us to monitor all of your internals. And there's a pretty interesting story I found that kind of outlines everything we've talked about for the last 4 years, pretty much in a nutshell. It was a pretty good story. I could have written it myself. Anyway, let's finish a little bit more of this. So this is this dust-sized wireless sensor implantable in the body. Because of these batteryless sensors could be used to stimulate nerves and muscles, the technology also opens the door to electroceuticals. And remember that word, because that is going to become a new term, I would say, to treat disorders such as epilepsy. Hey, weren't they treating epilepsy with little zaps to the brain with implants at one point? I think they were. Or to stimulate the immune system or tamp down on inflammation. The so-called neural dust, which the team implanted in muscles and peripheral nerves of rats, is unique in that ultrasound is used both to power and to read out the measurements. And remember, we discovered ultrasound helps open that blood-brain barrier to allow nanotechnology to pass through. And that was one way that they were finding, when they wanted to do special brain scans to be able to get the nanotech in there. Ultrasound technology is already well developed for hospital use, and ultrasound vibrations can penetrate nearly anywhere in the body, unlike radio waves, say researchers. Anyway, the sensors, which the researchers have already shrunk down to a 1 millimeter size cube, about the size of a large grain of sand, contains a piezoelectric crystal that converts ultrasound vibrations from outside the body into electricity to power a tiny onboard transistor that is in contact with a nerve or muscle fiber. How interesting is that? So they're using piezoelectric crystal that's using vibrations from outside to power itself. That's really quite ingenious, actually. I would have never thought of that. And then connecting it directly to a nerve or a muscle fiber to be able to then zip and zap. A voltage spike in the fiber alters the circuit and the vibration of the crystal, which changes the echo detected by the ultrasound receiver, typically the same device that generates the vibrations. And this slight change, called a backscatter, allows them to determine the voltage. In their experiment, the UC Berkeley team powered up passive sensors every 100 microseconds with 6 540 nanosecond ultrasound pulses, which gave them a continual real-time readout. And while the experiments so far have involved the peripheral nervous system and muscles, these neural dust motes could work equally well in the central nervous system and the brain to control things such as prosthetics. DARPA's been doing a lot of that with the skin that actually has feeling now, and full-blown mind control prosthetics. So now why not have these neural dust motes? So that's not even going to be some sort of hybrid circuit. They were working on this DNA electronics, and I found another story about that, brand new one actually. But now they'll just have these little neural dust motes. I don't know if it actually said what they were made out of here, but, we've seen that they've been making circuits out of DNA, so it's not going to be much longer. I mean, this stuff is actually biological, but they're turning it into like a biological computer that they've actually programmed, and they programmed it with instructions. Today's implantable electrodes degrade within 1 to 2 years and all connect to wires that pass through holes in the skull. Wireless sensors, dozens to 100, could be sealed in, avoiding infection and unwanted movement of the electrodes. The original goal of the Neural Dust Project was to imagine the next generation of brain-machine interfaces and to make it a viable clinical technology. If a paraplegic wants to control a computer or a robotic arm, you would just implant an electrode in the brain and it would essentially last a lifetime. Ding, ding, ding. Cyborg 101. Can step up, take a number. And this is absolute insanity. This is how they're going to get the very first people to take it. Remember, the desperate. The ones that they'll be able to fix the cures. It's almost like miracles. This is like the second coming. They are able to cure the sick and the indigent and make them well again with technology. It's very interesting looking at how science is becoming a religion, and you're not allowed to question, and they are like gods. They are creating life in their own image. And it's very frightening because these are evil people. These are people who want power and control. These are not people who are sitting there looking at how to do something benevolent to save planet Earth. That is not what the plan of all of this is. It's about control and ownership, about being able to see, be omniscient and omnipotent, and be able to know everything, and be able to own it, be able to create it and change it in their image. This is self-directed evolution that is happening right now, and we've reached that point. And that point is not 20, 30 years from now. That point is today. And remember, with the law of exponential returns, something that may have taken 20 years, back 20 years ago, may only take 2 years now, because we've used technology to create technology, each time becoming exponentially more powerful. And as things have moved out from the desktop to the cloud, we now have unlimited CPU power out there on demand. That's another reason why Amazon actually is another good add to that DoD board, because Amazon has their Amazon cloud. And don't forget, we covered a story a while back. Amazon and Bezos set up a parallel cloud to themselves. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was for the CIA. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain it was the CIA and not the NSA. Wouldn't be the NSA and it wouldn't be the FBI, so it's got to be the CIA. They wanted a parallel cloud, on-demand computing, just like Amazon had. Amazon sells it as a service, and so they built them one. Guys, this is I can't even believe that this is happening, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. And everyone's like, oh, if they even pay attention, they're like, oh, this is great. We're going to upgrade the government. We're going to have, electronic everything. But you know what? As we have electronic everything, it's also going to become electronic you and me. They are looking for guinea pigs. Remember I told you, a lot of this comes down to they sold us. They own us, and they sold us. We were chattel. We have now become an R&D line item budget for free. Remember 23andMe, wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, that runs 23andMe, partnering with the National Institute of Health and part of that cohort program to give up all your DNA to be able to come up with 21st century cures. They have gotten our data for free. We've given it all up to Google. We've given it to Yahoo. We've given it to Microsoft. We've given it to our banks. We've given it to Amazon. We've given it to the colleges, to the hospitals. We've given it to everyone. And it's out there for them to utilize, for them to take our statistics, and for them to start diagnosing us and coming up with solutions on how to save us and how to help us live forever. And guess what? They're going to hope. They're going to hope that we're going to want to We found a story the other day, I think it was Claire Bernesh wrote it, about 53%, 53% of people would be willing to consider some sort of implant. Well, there is a better story now. Let's see if we can find this. First generation cyborg, and this will tie in nicely to the smart dust moat. And this is out of Big Think. Big Think is a very mainstream publication, kind of writes science for dumb people. Not really, but it's like science for dummies. Big pictures, big words on the top. You know, not scary. Lots of it sometimes is in a video, so you don't even have to read. You can watch someone explain it to you. But if it's come out in Big Think, it means they really are trying to roll it out to the masses. And this is titled, I mean, can we be any more in your face? To chip or not to chip? Would you get a biotech implant? Ding, ding, da, ding. Ding, da, ding, 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 ding. You know, those are my thoughts. No way. I would not. You know, and here's the thought about this, and we've mentioned this also, and I've given you this to think about before. Like, what if it were you? Like, put yourself in that position. What if you were one of the desperate? What if you or a family member, a loved one, was very ill, and there was a last-ditch effort that getting one of these trial mad science gone mad treatments might actually save them? I was just reading about Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter had cancer not too long ago, and he miraculously was cured by this new therapy. And I never really looked into what the new therapy was, and I saw the other day that he had a gene therapy done very similar to the one that they're waiting for approval on. They did get FDA approval, but they're waiting for the hospital, and I don't know if it was, or maybe they got the ethics board approval, and they're waiting on the FDA approval as well as the hospital, where they're going to experiment to do the gene therapy, where they're going to suck out your T cells, genetically modify the T cells to be able to recognize certain types of cancer cells, and then reinfuse them into the body. And apparently it was very similar to the type of treatment that Jimmy Carter had that has apparently cured him. So I don't know, guys. I really don't know. I mean, these people are not benevolent. That's the thing. And once, like, maybe, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what to say, but I do know what to say. Well, one thing I do know what to say is I would rather genetically modify my own cells and put them back into me than to take some sort of insane synthetic piece of a grain of sand into my muscles that would give some outside entity the ability to have direct access to my neurological system inside my body 24/7, no matter what I'm doing or where I am, and find me. I mean, that's just not right. So anyway, let's read this story, because this really struck a chord with me. It is like they have been right on the same bandwidth with us for the last 4 years or so, and put it very nicely in the story. In the last 10 years, our relationship with technology has practically changed faster than we can keep tabs on it. Ding. Law of exponential returns, I told you. In 2006, the term crackberry was coined, referring to the addictive quality of the BlackBerry smartphone. Ding, ding. Addictive quality. Yeah, it was dopamine, Johnny. One of the first to achieve widespread popularity in the United States. And now it's already sort of quaint in a way to think of us as quote-unquote addicted pshaw, to our phones. Like, they make it a joke, but it's for real. There is a biological addiction that has happened. It's the dopamine dangling carrot, don't forget. But for how can we be addicted to something that has virtually become an extension of ourselves? Well, I don't know. And you know, like the way they spin this here, it's become an extension of ourselves. The next step is augmented reality. Whether it be Google Glass or putting that little psh in the back of the head to be your digital assistant in your head from birth. We read about that. We had a TED Talk that SLC gave us one time that we listened to that was very interesting, and that's exactly what he talked about. And I don't think that is too way out there, especially looking at that smart moat neural implant that is the size of a grain of sand. It's not too far out there at all. The incomparable success of such devices, such as BlackBerry and mobiles, has opened the way toward a consumer product revolution. Ding, ding. Got to make sure we keep buying the best and the newest. Stay updated. Can they get smaller and smaller with more technology? Companies are trying to make everything connect to this rapidly evolving Internet of Things. Hey, listen, it is the Internet of Things. We are being sucked right into it. From fridges to thermostats to home monitoring systems in your car, life is truly becoming hyper-connected. And despite the ubiquity of things that are talking, thinking, and sensing everything about and around you, how scary is that statement? The true spiritual successor to smartphones might be, wearable technology. Ding, ding, ding. Regina Duggan, DARPA Google lady. Oh, and it's even going to go beyond wearable, because wearable is almost passé now. I mean, who would want a wearable in your jean jacket for $500 when you might be able to just get a little, it's not even going to hurt. It's going to be like an allergy shot. We'll give them away for free if you want to try it to the first 1 million people. Step right up. To be able to be monitored. And who says that your insurance company won't require it at some point? That would be nasty. Just like the black boxes that they're starting to require in fleet cars for corporations. And, I don't think it'll be too long before they start requiring it for us individuals as well. Right now, I saw there was, I don't know what insurance company it was, but there was one of them, there was a commercial saying that if you had the surveillance device, you'll get like a big discount. But they'll be able to monitor everywhere you go and every time you go over the speed limit or not make a full stop at a stop sign. And as cars become more intelligent, remember, they pulled that DCMA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, to try to prevent people from being able to fix automobiles in the future, because they said that since a car is, basically a mobile computing device, we have all these computers under the hood now, and they're all running proprietary software that, hey, if you mess with it, you might actually damage something, which then could affect the safety of the vehicle. And so they're calling, a moratorium on trying to allow people to fix their cars. I don't know whatever happened to that. I think that went to a legal case. But, it's out there. Well, don't think that at some point in the future that isn't going to be something that maybe they do to us. Trying to claim ownership once they get something into you, once you are connected to the machine, and they can monitor you 24/7. I really think that that is the next part of where this is going. The phone in the pocket evolves to the watch around the wrist, moving our personal technology ever closer to our bodies. Google Glass was a great leap of faith in this direction, a ubiquitous computing platform conceived as a direct extension of our most delicate and treasured sensory tools, our eyes. And remember, we've talked about the eyes and why the eyes are so important before. The eyes are the one area that connect via the optic nerve direct to the brain. Connects to the prefrontal orbital cortex right behind there. We discovered just recently that prefrontal orbital cortex is where decision making takes place, and that is where they have now been observing real-time decisions being made in the brain. Anything Google, you don't put near your eye. I've warned you about that before, Johnny. Do not put it in your eye. Google's not only had Google Glass, but now they have Google Contacts out of Verily. It's also where they're working on the little neural brain zippity zap chip. So, Google wants in your brain. And now that they've partnered with the DoD and DARPA and Kurzweil, and it's just insanity, guys. That's what they're going for. And once they get inside you, you've lost your freedoms forever. You're not going to get it out of you. Perhaps you can guess where this tech-enabled rabbit hole goes from here. It seems the next step in our increasingly intimate relationship with technology will be embeddable tech, or quote-unquote being chipped. Ding, ding, ding. The bells are ringing and the fat lady singing because it's over. At this point, it's over. Once we're being lined up to be chipped, guys, you won't even be able to have a thought without them knowing it. You won't be able to think bad thoughts because you know what? You'll be electrozapped the second you do. They've already figured out how to erase and insert memories. You know, DARPA was doing that research, with little flashes of light. You know, all of these technologies are becoming one very ugly, scary picture that's going to happen at a microscopic level that you won't even be aware of that it's happening. They'll be able to augment our reality. They can embed, think about this. Once we have embeddable VR chips where they can embed it right into your brain, all they got to do is flip the switch. And once they flip that switch, who's going to know what's reality and what's not anymore? They'll be able to turn it on remotely. Now wait, because it even gets better. Let's read a little bit more of the story. Just as we were getting used to the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, us being a part of that everything, might already be on the horizon. Having a microchip implanted under one's skin will dramatically enhance many of the benefits already provided or merely hinted at by smartphones and wearables, of course. You know what, Johnny? You'll have way more superpowers with the chip in your hand. I don't even know what to say to this. Like people are ready and willing to embrace this technology. You know, they have groomed this new generation to just be so about giving up every detail about their lives that they don't even expect privacy anymore. And if they told these kids that by putting this chip in their hand will give them superpowers like the X-Men, so they'll be able to open doors or, you know, drive cars with their mind or whatever to make life easy, because remember, convenience also produces dopamine. It's a feel-good chemical. So if they make your life easier, because we know we've raised a lot of lazy humans in this country over the last few generations that have a very short attention span, so let's make it easy and let's make it colorful, like Apple did. That was Apple's key to success. Big, dumb buttons, all in pretty colors. And maybe some pretty colored plastic on the outside. That's how they became a multi-billion-dollar company again. It's very disturbing that we are that easy to fool, and that's exactly how they're going to spin this. That's why in that DoD press release, you know, they said the technology partners and whatever, and help us innovate and whatever, and help us with security and whatever. And we have people with a background in culture. Well, that's why, culture. You know, we've had lots of infiltrations we've been finding out and listening to interviews, especially by Tim Kelly. He's exposed a lot of CIA intervention in our past with the whole music revolution of the 60s and the drug revolution of the 60s, and how a lot of this was a psyop, and they figured out ways to manipulate people very easily. Well, don't think that stuff still isn't going on. We read a story 6, 8, maybe 10 months ago about that new department within the federal government that was dubbed by Obama. They were even hiring a director for it. That was about how, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was some sort of like psychological manipulation department. And when we read the description, it was trying to spin programs to the people of the United States so they can get us to accept them. They were talking about the resistant consumers, right? The resistant consumer Luddites, I think, should be our new title, because that's what I'm going to dub myself as. I want no part of it. I want to go back to 1982, okay? Very first, learning BASIC was fun, and computers were pretty harmless back in those days, at least from the home computer side, and everything was happy, and we had good music. Anyway, having a microchip implanted under one's skin will dramatically enhance many of the benefits already provided or merely hinted at by smartphones and wearables. And a chip under the skin could instantly measure physical metrics as well as blood glucose and blood pressure. It could also dispense your medication, yes, at a precise time and dosage. Remember, we read a story back last week talking about these new, they can genetically engineer a bacteria to then take chemicals that it can produce and make medication and put that bacteria or virus or whatever they were putting the shell into inside of your body so it can live in there and physically create drugs. Create drugs inside of your body in correct dosages at the correct time. And they can program these bacteria like little computers now. Like they literally have programming languages for cells. It also, getting the chip, and here we go, is our superpowers, baby. It would allow you to unlock the front door, check out at the convenience store, register, or pay for the bus fare with a simple touch of your palm or wave of your hand. And that was Regina Duggan. And remember, I told you, also add to this universal basic income thing that's supposedly coming in the future once the robots and the AI take all of our jobs. So they're just going to pay us in qubits because by that time money will be so worthless and the financial system will be in such bad shape that, they'll have to go to something else. So they're going to pay us in this electronic qubit and then use a wave of our hand with our implant to be able to get paid and to verify ourselves and to pay for things. You just wave your hand up there. But remember, if you start having evil thoughts, Johnny, you start thinking about rebelling against the machine 3 times this month, we're going to turn off your access. That would be like losing your wallet and your keys all at the same time. You'd lose access to your bank account. You'd lose access to your house because your house would all be done with this biometric wave. You would lose access to whatever. And you know what? You keep it up, Johnny. We're going to start making you get twitchy. We're going to start zapping that vagus nerve so you fall down every 10 minutes. You're not going to be able to run away. And we're going to know where you are at all times, Johnny. So don't you be getting any ideas. We were all worried about maybe sending Atlas robots to come disarm all the American people. Once people start lining up for the chip, they won't have to. They could disarm you themselves. They'll just flip a switch in your brain so you don't have any more violent thoughts. You know what? You don't even have memories of any wrongdoing of the federal government anymore because they've just made it all happy horse shit. And they've replaced your memories with some reality TV, Kardashian butt, and that's all you remember. And then you don't care. And you know what, Johnny? You need some of this calming medication. Here, we're going to give you your legalized medical MJ. Except it'll be in a little self-producing dose synthetically inside your body every time you push that red button. Just like when you're in the hospital and you need some morphine. They're going to medicate, chip, and control everybody. Hey, but if you get your chip, you get all the bennies. We're going to pay you just to sit around and be our experimental guinea pig. Anyway, guys, if you can believe it, we are about plumb out of time somehow. Make sure you stick around. Lots of live radio. Mr. Ken Fletch live up next. And all kinds of live radio here Tuesday night. All right, guys, everyone have a good day.
My name is S.M. Gibson.